Good evening. It's me again. My voice sounds a little bit strange. It's because there are lesions in my mouth and in my throat, which are difficult. Before I go any further, I want to make a comment that yesterday's video got recorded. It just never, due to technical difficulties, it never got sent out. So we're working on that right now. But that's not what I wanted to talk about tonight. Uh, and I'm not sure how long I can hold on and keep this up. But I think it's important. It's an observation that I've made, uh, and it's important if to no one else but to myself. Um, I talked to you about Maslow's hierarchy and the fact that there were five rungs. There's physiological needs. There are the needs to feel secure. There the need to belong, the need to be esteemed by others, and then self-actualizations. Well, in the spirit of full disclosure, when I was doing seminars and using Maslow's hierarchy, and still write about it to this day, I added to uh, hierarchical rungs to that ladder. One was the need uh, for intellectual stimulation, which appears below self-actualization, and the other is the need to experience beauty, art, music, uh, whatever, spiritual needs of a sort. And while I was thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and those seven rungs on the ladder, I think I discovered uh, Mitch Schneider's hierarchy of discomfort. And in many ways, they work the same way, I think. And perhaps I'll need you to help me out in this and to show me the way. Um, Whatever discomfort you're feeling, and I chose not to use the word pain because I think too many people would turn that whole discussion off if you're talking about pain. Realistically, we're talking about discomfort, which is a really polite way of saying pain. But I've discovered that whatever previous discomfort you were feeling because of illness or because of uh, physical injury or whatever, it's replaced almost instantly by another discomfort that appears subsequently. And that in some cases might not even be as great as the previous discomfort. Um, and the sores in my mouth, I think, are a pretty good example of this. I mean, uh, I had a number of other symptoms from the chemotherapy, none of which are pleasant. Uh, but the sores in your mouth that occur from the chemotherapy because they attack the mucous membranes make it almost impossible to swallow. Um, One of the bags that's tilted up here where you can't see them is my dinner because I can't take the nourishment by mouth. I have to go ahead and get it intravenously. But I've also discovered something else, and that is that discomfort is pretty much only that mentally and emotionally, even when you can't swallow, even when you have sores in your mouth that are really painful, uh, even when you have diarrhea, or it's caused by the same set of circumstances, or some other problem associated to the chemo and to the transplant in general, it's not enough to stop you from transcending that discomfort. It's not enough to stop you from overcoming that discomfort if you're strong enough mentally. And strong enough mentally can branch off into a whole other set of discussions. But certainly one of the things that gives you the strength that you need to persevere is the genuine goodness and outpouring of genuine goodness that you receive from others in a situation like this, especially when it's not anticipated, especially when you don't expect it, and I don't think anybody should ever expect it. If you live a life well lived, if you care about people, if you try to be the best you can be, I've seen it in so many instances where the attempt is self-sustaining. It's all you need, if need's the right word. But when you're in a situation where instead of being the one who's giving and the one who's trying to help someone else out in a situation like that, you find yourself the one who's on the receiving end, aside from the fact that it's really uncomfortable. At least it is for me. Because, I mean, the career I chose because it allowed me to fix things. In my case, automobiles, trucks, some motorcycles, a couple of boats, but whatever. And I did it for the pure joy of doing it. And in all honesty, I did it in many cases for the incredible relationships that it blessed me and my family with throughout my career. And there are people that I would never have met. There are influences on me that I would never had the privilege of learning from. There are so many instances of that living a life well lived ought to be pretty much enough, if you're as fortunate as I've been. And I guess what I'm saying, in all honesty, is that when everything is said and done, when you're all finished with talking about this or trying to work your way through it emotionally, or trying to sustain yourself physically while you're going through it, you realize that living a life of service or life in service of others is probably the greatest reward you can experience in and of itself. And that should be enough. And in many cases it is, and in some cases it isn't. And I think it's sad when it's not. But for the outpouring of genuine goodness and prayers and thoughtfulness, and for the people who've driven out of their way to come here and donate blood and platelets, which is not an easy thing to do, on its most basic levels. But to sit for 90 minutes with your arm immobile while they suck bodily fluids out of you and separate platelets is not particularly easy. And for all of you who have done that, and all of you who could not because you're too far away, I so deeply appreciate who you are and what you're all about. And thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you for my wife, Leslie, and for the kids. I think this has transformed all of us in so many deep ways that despite wherever this discomfort shows itself on my chart of my hierarchy of discomforts, what we've gotten out of the experience is so much more powerful. And this is T+5, Transplant plus 5, April 7th, 2019. Probably should have started out with that, right? Okay. It's chemo brain, and we'll talk more about that another time. But for this evening, that's all I got. So wishing you a really wonderful evening, day, morning, tomorrow. Thanks for being you guys.